As the following entries will no doubt showcase, there's actually a rather fine line between giving fans a fulfilling dose of midichlorians out of nowhere, or eliciting a wave of unwanted cringes on the back of a fumbled use of the Force. And unfortunately for this bunch of big screen offerings outside of the galaxy far, far away, the latter most definitely applies. Gareth here from What Culture Star Wars, and here are the 10 worst times Star Wars appeared in other movies. Number 10, The Rock's Yoda name drop mid-tune. Journey to the Mysterious Island. It is no secret that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is quite the fan of all things galaxy far, far away, and you can't blame him. But the closest the Great One has actually come to lending his star power to the Titanic Skywalker saga and beyond came in the form of his sickly sweet rendition of What a Wonderful World in the thick of the somewhat forgettable Journey to the Center of the Earth sequel, with Johnson finding himself in the no doubt surreal scenario of settling down for a bout of musical therapy opposite Michael Caine and Josh Hutcherson's Alexander and Shawn respectively. His Hank proceeds to strum the ukulele, and the lyrics that follow are enough to incite another galactic civil war. Things get off to a cheesy enough start, with Rocky sticking to the OG verse. But cheddar well and truly collides with the fan as the lyrics of "I see giant bees, and I coulda told ya, don't trust Alexander, he's older than Yoda," invade the sorry ears of those taking in the 2012 family action flick. In the case of Do or Do Not, Dwayne and all involved should have opted for the latter. Number 9, Solid Gold Death Stars, Future Armor, Bender's big score. With the villainous scammers found terrorizing the gang throughout the Futurama TV movie that was Bender's big score, tricking President Richard Nixon into selling them the globe, the slimy group opt to create a rather familiar defense system, with a hilarious twist of course. Kitting out their defenses with an entire fleet of Death Stars, boasting enough super weapons to make Emperor Palpatine crack an unsettling smile no doubt, wasn't enough for the slippery antagonist though. Sure enough, each and every Death Star knockoff turns out to be made entirely of gold, and various diamonds too. Oh, and they're also all remote controlled as a way to shoehorn in the tired villains treating the battle like one big game gag. Luckily, these particular shameless Star Wars cameos are destroyed in next to no time at all, with Leela and the rest of Earth's forces making light work of the space station fleet, thanks to some Hermes head-in-a-jar intervention. But that still doesn't change the fact that this particular joke was clearly no moon. And it wasn't as funny as the folks behind the big score likely thought it was either. Number 8, Pimp My Vader, date movie. Never want to miss out on the opportunity to send up whatever flicks were in the public eye in the lead up to one of their consistent slices of comedy. Parody duo Jason Freeberg and Aaron Seltzer were at it again during their 2006 release by the name of Date Movie. You know, that one. This being a film that made its way into theaters almost a year on from George Lucas's final prequel entry, Revenge of the Sith, the call was made for Alison Hannigan's heavy prosthetic boasting Julia Jones to give in to the dark side during her Pimp My Girl makeover early on. It's as dreadful as it sounds, folks. Said Pimp My Ride parody soon paves the way for Jones being kitted out with a full-blown Darth Vader getup before she slides straight off the operating table for laughs, I think. And Tony Cox soon gets in on the painful action as the film then cuts to Hitch shaking his head in surreal Yoda facial prosthetics. Somehow this was the most jarring part of a sequence that also involved draining a character's stomach and using said substance for mayonnaise. That is saying something. Number 7, What's Up, Darth? Looney Tunes back in action. While many are understandably quick to defend just about any content that comes equipped with the beloved gang of Bugs Bunny and co., there was a beat during the closing stages of Looney Tunes back in action that almost single-handedly justified putting the property's big screen ambitions on ice for a few decades. As Bugs and Daffy Duck pursue Marvin the Martian into space to prevent him from placing the blue monkey on an Acme satellite, the leading bunny dishes out a pretty weak attempt at another iconic one-liner. What's up, Darth? Bugs inquires of his space foe. Get it? Apologies if so. If one cheap Star Wars gag wasn't enough, Warner Brothers chose to really double down on the Force-sensitive slapstick moments later, revealing Bugs' carrot to actually be a vegetable lightsaber of sorts. And this revelation leads to yet more fun at the expense of Lucas and his galaxy, with the legendary animated rabbit skimming through a The Force for Dummies book as he duels for the fate of the world. Saying that, there's likely a few folks at Disney who would benefit from a sit down with said manual. Number 6, a lightsaber knife that toasts bread whilst you slice it. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Sticking with dodgy lightsaber tributes, 2005's big screen installment from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series introduced yet another soul-crushing take on the sacred Jedi Sith weapon. As Zoe Deschanel's Trillian gives Martin Freeman's Arthur a little tour of the Heart of Gold's kitchen, a brief exploration of a machine that detects what you're craving and makes it for you is soon followed up by a revolutionary toasting device, that being the entirely inspired bread toasting knife. Outside of this pointless tool likely leaving one side of the toast a touch stale if you were to, take a break in between spreading the butter, the fact it sports both the exact same physical characteristics as the iconic Star Wars laser sword, and very same sounds, felt like a lazy and not exactly side-splitting way to capitalize on the buzz and attention surrounding Lucas's prequel trilogy at the time. The brief but still jarring brandishing of the Sith-coloured blade as a throwaway visual gag didn't do much to keep this particular sci-fi entry from stuttering at the box office though, and just feels a little bit desperate and out of place upon a rewatch. Number 5, the Force is not strong with Gulliver's life stories. Gulliver's Travels. Over the course of the already unforgivable 2010 ensemble adventure flick known as Gulliver's Travels, the titular giant amongst the Lilliput folk finds himself routinely dragging the galaxy far, far away down with the rest of this dud of a comedy outing. Getting the ball rolling with the first of many excruciating attempts at eliciting a Star Wars-induced chuckle, Jack Black's Lemuel Gulliver is spotted narrating some rather familiar action figures. Taking a press badge by force just about sums up these agonizing first few moments. But this particular Rob Letterman entry was not done there, not by a long shot. Upon making himself at home in the diminutive kingdom, Gulliver soon settles down in his own personal media room, and it's here where the apparent tales of the towering entity's own life are told on stage for all to see, these bearing a striking and humorless resemblance to the Skywalker saga, of course. And the visual of James Corden as Darth Vader earns this entry's place on this list alone. Rounding out the tacky usage of Star Wars nods jumbled into this rotting mess of a feature, Gulliver also claims to be the captain of the Millennium Falcon and have Yoda as his vice president of Manhattan when lying to the Lilliput civilians. What a rascal. Number 4, Darth Vader chokes next to Oscar the Grouch. Night at the Museum Battle of the Smithsonian. Night at the Museum Battle of the Smithsonian included an attempt to poke further fun at the galaxy's biggest bad, with Hank Azaria's brought back to life big bad Kamun Ra inevitably turning his attention to ruling the world. Two notable pop culture antagonists calling the Smithsonian home opt to offer up their services to the sequel's feature villain. Alongside Sesame Street's Oscar the Grouch, none other than Darth Vader himself decides to join the bad fight against Larry Daly, the night security guard. And this failed bid to convince Kamun Ra the duo are up to their task soon leads to a deeply unfunny sequence depicting the powerless exhibit Dark Lord trying to force choke a less than impressed Pharaoh. Not content with merely laughing off Vader's ineffective hand gestures though, Kamun Ra then proceeds to stab holes in the all-round aesthetic of the legendary presence, stating there's just too much going on. Throwaway beat of bizarre slapstick or not, seeing the iconic Star Wars figure be classed as an asthmatic robot who looks like he's dressed for the opera felt like little more than a cheap way to squeeze a few more famous face beats into the bloated mix. Number 3, Return of the Jedi gets unnecessarily dunked on, X-Men Apocalypse. While it's blatant that the primary purpose of crapping on Return of the Jedi during the events of 2016's X-Men Apocalypse was to take aim at the fact threequels in general are often the weakest of the bunch, looking at you X-Men The Last Stand, the gag is still somewhat bittersweet in hindsight. Hot on the heels of the Young Mutants taking in Episode 6 for the very first time, the gang of Jean Grey and co discuss which of the original trilogy sits as the best in the series. And while some would agree that Return of the Jedi isn't quite as strong as A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back, Sophie Turner's eventual Dark Phoenix's comments of "at least we can all agree the third one is always the worst" still feels like a bit of a pointed dig at the flick once helped into existence by 20th Century Fox. Again, it's evident the main point of this piece of Episode 6 shade was to poke fun at the original X-Men trilogy's lackluster conclusion. But Jean's loaded comment didn't exactly age all that well in the aftermath of Apocalypse's poor reception too. All in all, keeping this one on the cutting room floor may not have been the worst idea for all involved. Number 2, Shawn Michaels is Incredible Master Yoga, Avengers of Justice, Farce Wars. Instead of picking up a ukulele and strumming out a nod to Master Yoda, WWE legend the Heartbreak Kid decided to go one better, or worse. during his 2018 showing in parody party Avengers of Justice Farce Wars. That is a real title, I promise you. Sporting an unmistakable set of pointy ears and green face/body paint, Shawn Michaels may trade the swamps of Dagobah for a makeshift yoga studio, but it's depressingly clear what the folks behind this pitiful farce were going for here. Yet this chaotic spin on the grumpy old master's legendary training of Luke Skywalker amidst the fog in The Empire Strikes Back is about as amusing as a smack to the shin from the former's trusty stick. And it's probably best to not even try to unpack what in the holy hell the WWE Hall of Famer was trying to achieve with his dodgy RP accent as the farce-sensitive Incredible Master Yoga. Still, at least the sight of him hitting sweet chin music on his unfortunate pupil was semi-entertaining, so that's something. Number 1, Sherman uses his force. Nutty Professor to the clumps. Sometimes a hero, be they Jedi or otherwise, must dig down deep in order to summon up the strength needed to save the day, or entire galaxy in some cases. Taking said sentiment perhaps a little too literally though, Eddie Murphy's 2000 follow-up to the smash hit remake that was The Nutty Professor decided to release its own somewhat windy take on the Force, a year or so on from the prequel return of George Lucas's unstoppable franchise. As Professor Sherman Clump finds himself dozing off on the couch mid-late night movie, the leading light soon winds up in a nightmare Armageddon-esque scenario involving him trying to plant nukes in the center of an asteroid on a collision course with planet Earth. With the limp sequel being determined to fold as many pop culture sci-fi winks into the mix as humanly possible for the laughs, Sherman is soon met with a Force ghost appearance from his pops, and the advice of using a Force deep down inside you to fire him towards the detonation button needed to complete the mission. And what do you know, the Force was very much strong with Sherman's flatulence. Though the same most definitely could not be said for this lame, gas-infused attempt to take the piss out of all things Star Wars. And that's our list. Know of any other terrible times Star Wars appeared in other movies? Let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're at it. Also, if this kind of thing is your bag, then head on over to whatculture.com and find some more incredible articles just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on. I have been Master Gareth from What Culture Star Wars. May the Force be with you as always. Thank you very much for watching this video today, and hopefully I'll see your face very, very soon. Bye bye!